Okay. Hi, everybody. Good evening. Hi. Um, I'll call to order the May 19th, 2025 Special Community Services Commission meeting. Special because we're here. Because it's a different day? Okay. It's all okay. We pushed it because of the Finance Commission meeting. Okay. Great. Melissa, can you please call roll?
Chair Samuels,
Here.
Vice Chair Plotkin, Commissioner Field,
Here.
Commissioner Bagasau, Commissioner Lai,
Here.
Commissioner Moore,
Here.
Commissioner Weinberger.
Here.
Chair, you have a quorum.
Okay, great. Commissioner Moore, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay. Um, and in an effort to better manage the business on the agenda, general public comment will be limited to 30 minutes at the beginning of the agenda. If there are speakers remaining in the queue, they will be heard at the end of the meeting. If anyone present or on Zoom would like to make a general public comment for items not listed on the agenda and are under the purview of the Community Services Commission, please now raise your hand on Zoom or turn in a speaker card. Staff, let's give speakers a few seconds to raise their hand.
Chair, we have one hand raised on Zoom. Yelena, would you like to make a general public comment?
Hi, yes, please. And can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Okay, I'm just going to read a little blurb that I wrote. So I'm a South Pasadena resident, and I'm concerned about the safety of our children following the recent fires in Altadena. In particular, I'd like to raise a question about the sand in our public parks and whether any lead testing or remediation has been conducted. It's my understanding that several surrounding cities have begun this testing for lead and contaminants and are taking action to remediate where needed. In contrast, I'm concerned that South Pasadena may not be taking the same proactive steps. For example, I've learned that in Garfield, new sand was poured on top of existing sand that contained ash, rather than removing or remediating the tainted material. To my knowledge, no testing or action has been taken at other parks such as Orange Grove. This approach raises serious concerns. Simply adding clean sand on top of contaminated sand, which I'm sure you understand, just redistributes the contaminants. And so when we have our kids playing, it just moves the sand and the contaminants around. So this brings me to my questions. Have any parks in South Pasadena undergone lead testing following the fires? What are the current lead levels, if known? What is the city's plan for remediation? And how will the public be informed of the results if any action is taken? So thank you. That's my questions.
All right. Thank you very much. Are there any other speakers? Any other public comments?
There are no other hands on Zoom.
Okay, well, if there are no other people present to speak, I'll declare the public comment period closed. And I'll move on to item number 2, the reordering of additions or deletions to the agenda. Does anyone have any reordering of additions or deletions to the agenda?
Maybe we could talk about what we just heard on Zoom.
That item is not on the agenda. And so if we want to put it on the agenda, we can for a future meeting.
Or you could ask staff or direct staff to come back with you with some information.
Do you have a question for staff?
I think we could talk about it. I did see something in the newspaper about Pasadena, like 40% of their fields were contaminated. So I don't know if we've even tested for that, as our Zoom speaker just said.
I don't know if that number is correct. I think they were going through the testing process, but I don't know if they came back with actual data yet. They closed the fields to do testing, but I don't know what the results of those tests were.
I agree with Commissioner Plotkin. I saw that there were some concerning numbers of things found at different schools in Pasadena, but I don't know what or why, but I saw the same thing. So I'm support Commissioner Plotkin that I just would like to ask the city if it's something we have done. You know, so that's my question. Or, yeah, is there a recommendation on should we do this?
Good evening. Not to get into a huge discussion about it, as of now, we have not tested any of the sand in our parks. There was no recommendation from LA County to do so at the time. We can bring back this item if the commission wishes to.
And we normally take our cues from the LA County Department of Public Health, and if they deemed it necessary to do so, then they would issue that request or recommendation or requirement.
Just like they had done 5 years back during the pandemic. So we take our charges from LA County. So when they are asked to do certain items, then that's when cities go in and start taking care of those items. But as of now, there have not been anything from LA County, which is why the city has not done any testing, but we did add sand on top of the existing sand.
I mean, you know, I think it's a matter of personal opinion. You know, do we take the direction of the county? Do we go above and beyond? My recommendation would be to stay in line with county guidelines and what the county recommends and suggests that we do. If there was reason for concern, I would imagine, like Pasadena has done, they would recommend that we also conduct our own tests. But if they haven't come back to tell us that we should be doing so, I don't see a reason to do that. But that's my personal opinion.
I do agree with you. So there hasn't been a need or there hasn't been any direction from county, which is the reason why we have not done any testing.
That doesn't mean it's not safe. Do we even know if the county's even looking or measuring any of this?
Well, I think yes, which is why Pasadena went through their own testing. Like it was recommended that they do that testing. So I don't know. I think Pasadena's under their own public health.
It's the Pasadena Health Department,
Right.
correct? Yes.
So that there may be a difference there, but
Yeah, I'd be a little careful since this item is not on the agenda. But if you want to direct staff to bring back more information at a next meeting, just in sort of what's the county doing?
can you come back to us at the next meeting?
Yes,
with,
so we'll do some research from now until the next meeting, and if there's any updates from the county, we can share that with the commission.
Great.
Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Did we have passed the reordering? I don't think there's any reordering requested, so we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, the consent calendar. Items listed on the consent calendar are considered by the city manager to be routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion unless a public comment has been received or commission requests otherwise, in which case the item will be removed for separate consideration. Any motion relating to an ordinance or a resolution shall also waive the reading of the ordinance or resolution, and include its introduction or adoption as appropriate. And were there items on the consent calendar?
Your minutes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'd like to offer an amendment to approve the consent calendar. Friendly amendment. We can approve the entirety of the consent calendar.
Great. So that's the,
Yeah.
I'll accept that amendment.
okay. So the motion was made by Commissioner Weinberger, seconded by Commissioner Lai with an amendment. Can we get a roll call, Melissa?
Chair Samuels,
Yes.
Vice Chair Plotkin,
Yes.
Commissioner Field,
Yes.
Commissioner Bagatow,
Yes.
Commissioner Lai,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore, Commissioner Weinberger.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Moving on to item number 4. Community Services Deputy Director Melissa Snyder to present item number 4.
Good evening, Commissioners. I enjoy this mic better, so I'm going to start on this side tonight. Tonight, we're presenting an informational item and requesting your feedback on a new public infrastructure partnership recently approved by City Council. On May 7th, the Council approved a partnership with Metro for the installation of a Throne Labs smart restroom facility at no cost to the city. This is part of Metro's regional effort to enhance public amenities in advance of the 2026 FIFA World Cup and the 2028 Olympics and Paralympic Games. The proposed location for this facility is Heritage Park near the Metro A-Line station. Selected for its high foot traffic and current lack of public restrooms, the unit will be solar-powered and self-contained with touchless app-based access and real-time maintenance and monitoring. Metro will fully cover delivery, installation, and operation through at least mid to late 2028. The facility is intended to serve a broad range of users, including park visitors, farmer market attendees, commuters, and members of the unsheltered population. Tonight, we're seeking your feedback and input that can be included into a future staff report to Council as we move forward with the planning. Tentative installation is targeted for July 2025. Again, there's no fiscal impact to the city during the Metro partnership period. Beyond 2028, should the city choose to retain the unit, the operating costs could range between $4,250 to $9,000 per month, depending on service levels. With that, I will turn it over to discussion and input by the Commission.
Well, I'll start since I did ask for this to be added to the agenda. Truthfully, I do not review the city council agendas as frequently as maybe I should. And so when I was reviewing the city council meeting video, which oddly enough I do probably too often, I saw Lucy there presenting to the city council this the idea of putting this throne in, and I was surprised to see her up there making this presentation, and that the item had not come before the commission for discussion or any mention of it at a prior commission meeting that this was even a possibility. So not that everything, I would imagine not everything that the community services department, city staff does needs to come before the commission, because that would be quite cumbersome. But when I saw this, I thought it was significant enough that, hey, it might have warranted like a call out or a mention that this was somewhat in the works. I live right by the train station. I know that there are people coming on and off of that train that are not South Pasadena residents, which is great, but there are some there is some undesirable activity that stems from people coming on and off the train, as the police department has mentioned to me, the additional crime that's happening in the neighborhood. People come off the train, people get back on the train. I was talking to one of our city council people who I think may have even brought this up to the city manager for it to be investigated. Councilwoman Rossi, I think she was the one who presented it or asked about it. Is that right? And she mentioned that there's one in Highland Park. And so I went to the one in Highland Park, and I was there for a half an hour, saw several people come on and off the train, um, and no one used the throne bathroom. But the people that did use the throne bathroom were the people living in the homeless encampment right next to the train station. And I even approached a couple of them, and I said, "Hey, do you guys use this bathroom often?" And they're like, "Oh, they raved about it. It was very clean. It's the cleanest porta potty they've ever used." I was like, "Oh, and if it's dirty, you just text this number and they come and they clean it." And I was like, "Oh, that's great." Um, and so they were the ones that were using the bathroom. My concern is that number one, I was surprised to see it mentioned and voted on by the city council without any sort of community feedback or input, or little community feedback and input. There were a couple of public comments, but that's one of my concerns. And my other concern is that that this public restroom that we're basically building or putting in place is really going to serve probably not the community or the demographic that the metro says it's going to serve, which are commuters, and it's probably going to be mostly the unhoused that are getting off the train and coming, to use the bathroom and do whatever else they're going to do in town. So I don't think it's in the best interest of the city to have it put in place. And if it's going to serve the farmers market, maybe the farmers market can bear the burden of bringing in temporary restrooms on Thursday nights and bringing them in and taking them out and bear that cost. Maybe we can have them pay for the bathrooms in the Ironworks building to be cleaned. And I just don't know. I think this is a major step that I think deserves a lot more discussion.
So I will add that the farmers market does pay to have, I believe, 2 portable restrooms brought in on Thursdays for farmers market. So this would be in addition to the restrooms.
I just have a couple questions about this. I was also surprised to see it on the agenda. I couldn't attend the council meeting that night because I wasn't feeling well. And then I didn't really see the follow-up what happened with that. So I too was surprised to see it just kind of whisked through. My question is about, so I understand that Metro has funded this project throughout, I'm sure, their entire system, a transportation system. So are they reaching out to all the cities that have Metro stops and saying, "Hey, we have this thing. Are you guys interested?" Is that how this came to South Pass?
So we actually had the connection prior to the funding. So, and you can add to this if I get it wrong, but Mayor Pro Tem Rossi had looked into this and had given the city manager some input on it. Staff researched it, and at the time, we could not afford to have this restroom installed. It wasn't until later that Metro decided to fund this for the Olympics that we brought it back because it would now be free.
Okay,
So
yeah, so I'm clear, Mayor Pro Tem brought it to you guys. We couldn't afford it, and now we can. She's only been in office since January.
it was early.
Let me
So,
track back a
did
little
the
bit.
plan
This,
shift in 3
the Metro approached the city in September or October of last year.
Mhm.
So we sat down, had a meeting with them, and we sent a memo to council to let them know what the meeting was about, as well as the price tag of $4,200 to $9,000. At that time, council did not take action, so we let that go. So fast forward to April of this year, Mayor Pro Tem Rossi was approached by a member of Metro, a representative, and that item went to our city manager. City manager let me know to go ahead and look into this project, let's call it, which is why I worked on the staff report and presented it to council at the last council meeting. As far as if Metro has asked other cities if they want a throne lab, I'm not really sure. I didn't even ask that question of them, but that's kind of how this story has come about.
Okay, so I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, so they approached Mayor Pro Tem Rossi, they didn't approach the city manager or the community services department. From what I'm hearing, there has been an issue with back and forth between the museum folks and the farmers market. Now, if this is solely to solve that issue, I think the city needs to be transparent about that. And I'm probably the only one here who's ever talked to the homeless, besides from Brian going out investigating the situation in Highland Park. I would probably be the one person to say, yes, this is great, but without more community input, or particularly, did this go to the Public Safety Commission?
This item has not gone to any commission.
Okay, so the city council was voted on something that hadn't gone between probably the one commission that would have the most to say about this, which was the Public Safety Commission. Since they're the ones that really know what's going on at that station. I've been told by the unhoused never to let my daughter get on at that station at night because it's not safe. So I think that while I want to have these services for the homeless, I don't think it's a problem that our city should solve. If Metro is going to do it at every stop, that's a different situation. But it seems to me like for some reason, South Pass was given an exception, or somehow Metro contacted us, but maybe they didn't contact Azusa. I don't know. I just think that we jumped the gun on this without thinking about it more. And the location is not in the park. It looks like it's on the brick. So I don't know. I just think it's worthy of some more consideration, and that it should have gone before, at least, if not us, the Public Safety Commission.
And to respond to your first question, the Throne Lab concept was not to resolve issues between the chamber and the farmers market. Their agreement has been signed and they're working well together. This was just an added addition, an amenity, let's call it.
From a financial perspective, I see that they're going to take care of maintenance up until 2028, and the city has the right to get rid of it after that. Are they going to pay for it to be removed at that point, or does that become?
And the city can remove it at any time. If it deems that it's not working out and it's not doing this purpose of it, then we can remove it at any time. There are no stringent contracts in place. And I forgot my train of thought.
And they will pay to remove it?
Metro is in charge of everything, yes. There is no cost to the city at this time. And the intent of the Throne Lab is to prepare LA County for the World Cup as well as the Olympics in 2028, so that riders who are going back and forth to Pasadena and LA, if they choose to stop in South Pass, that there is a rest stop.
And these are paying Metro riders.
The Throne Lab is open to anyone that has a phone. It does not matter if you are a rider of Metro or not. I can go ahead and use it on my way to the office if I need a health break. If I have my phone on, I can go in. So it's not just for Metro riders. It's for anyone.
But you did say something about if it's not serving the purpose that's been defined by Metro or by the community, we can remove it at any time.
I think this.
What are those success criteria that says that it's being used for that purpose? Or is it, I mean, is it like number of flushes? Is it, paid riders? Is it the unhoused using it? Is it the reduction of calls to the police department for people using the bushes as a bathroom? I mean, what is the defined success criteria for the Throne?
With the use of the cell phone, whoever is using it, Metro collects data. So that's how they know how many people are using it. Then users can rate their service, their experience. They can also call in requests for maintenance if there are any issues. So there is data that will be collected by Metro.
But that doesn't really answer the question of when we think it's not being used effectively, we can have it removed at any time. What would that mean?
What would define not being used
Right.
appropriately?
That's my question.
Okay. At this point, I don't know. But the purpose, the intent is for the World Cup and the Olympics. It's not for the Metro riders. It's just for a facility that's available at our stop, which happens to be in our town.
So can we have it installed for that month? Like the month of the World Cup or the 2 weeks for the Olympics, and then have it removed?
That is a question I have not asked at Metro. I don't know.
Could we, if there's an issue and it's a problem, the community doesn't like it, whatever, it's really it sounds like for Olympics. I'm not sure when the World Cup is. Is
Next year, 2026.
2026? 26, okay. So if there's a problem, could we just lock it up? If it's installed now and we have a problem before the 2026 and the 2028, could we just close it up and then open it up when there's a need?
I don't know if we can lock it up, but that's something that city administration or city council would have to provide us direction with.
Yeah, just to be clear, this has been approved by the city council. So yes, this has been approved. That's my question. And it's not within the purview, in my view, of the Public Safety Commission. Public Safety Commission's really focused on police and fire.
So then what sort of recourse does the community have who might not have been made aware of the fact that this bathroom was going to be installed?
I think they could come to city council. You could call your council person. You could object. I think it's all the same things that everybody already does. Every day, multiple times.
I think there's a kind of unique sort of place where this falls because number one, it's something that's being initiated by Metro, which is a transportation organization. They're primarily tasked with ensuring public transit services across the county. The placement is in Heritage Park, which would fall under the jurisdiction, I guess, of community service and recreation. I guess there is a public safety element to it as well. I do sort of share the concern that it wasn't brought to any of the commissions. I think it certainly would have fallen into at least one of the commissions in order to obtain some community feedback before it went to city council. But I sort of understand how it doesn't neatly necessarily fall into one specific commission's tasks.
I think when council approved this, one of the questions we had for staff, and this is where I think the Community Services Commission could be very helpful, is placement, exactly to your point. The pictures that we saw were a little bit alarming. The sort of the appearance was a little bit, kind of shouts at you. So I think that those were the two items we asked staff to go back to Metro and look at. I think, as I recall, it has to be within the cameras of Metro. So there's some limitation. It has to be accessible to the cleaning truck. But I think that Lucy, you were going to go back and kind of try to figure out some alternatives maybe?
There's one potential alternative, which there is a picture of it in the packet. It checks off the boxes as far as being close to the Metro security cameras, as well as enough clearance for the daily truck to come in to do the clean out. So it would be as soon as you get off, excuse me, as soon as you get off the train track, it would be on your right-hand side. There is a bench there. We would need to remove the bench. I did speak with Metro after the council meeting, so they're waiting for me to give them a site plan, which we're not able to locate one. So we're trying to do things differently with Google Maps and inserting the photos as we had in the packet. All the other locations are either too far for the daily truck to clean out, or they're too far away from the security cameras. We can't be under too many tree canopies because it is solar powered, so the sunlight has to go through. So there's those three things are strategic and important in order for us to have a good location. And our original, it was kind of in the middle of the plaza. So we did take that idea out so that we can have a more clear walkable path. So this is directly as soon as you get off the train track on your right-hand side, as soon as you get down on your right-hand side.
And is this something that falls under our commission once it's installed? Who is going to take care of like the feedback and the communication regarding this?
Either the city manager's office or our office, I'm not really sure. We haven't really had a discussion on that. But I'm assuming it might fall under community services, and we'll let our city manager's office know.
Metro has notoriously been very difficult to pin down, and everything surrounding the Metro station, Metro Police, Metro Security is very ambiguous. They're very difficult to get in touch with. They claim that there is zero crime in and around the Metro station because, quite frankly, they don't arrest anybody to keep their numbers down. People don't know to call the Metro Police. They call South Pasadena Police Department. By the time they say, hey, call the Metro, or they call the Metro Police, the crime is done or over, or all they do is diffuse the situation. I'm very concerned that this was, and I will take it up in a different forum, but I'm very concerned that this was approved by City Council without more discussion. I'm also, and I'm sorry I'm getting a little emotional, I, is there some sort of threshold of items that when city staff goes to present or ask for a vote from city council, that that item is brought to the commission for discussion? Or is there no kind of threshold for that? Like, hey, we have a city staff, community services, city staff is going to the city council to get feedback or a vote. That item, in my opinion, should first come to the commission without bypassing us 100%. No comment, no discussion item. It was brought to you in September. It's now May. What month is it? Many, many meetings in between then and now, and not a single mention. And that is that's concerning to me. And it should be concerning to the community that these things are happening sort of under the radar. And I think that that's irresponsible. And I would hope that that doesn't happen again, whatever the item might be. At least, you know, hey, a friendly heads up at a meeting, a mention that there's a vote at the council for something that you guys are presenting.
May I ask why it wasn't brought to us, just as an advisory?
I take direction from city managers, so I don't really ask as to why. He is my boss, so if I'm tasked with a project, my job is to carry out that project.
Sure. One last question. So in looking at the rendering, this is on the brick, correct?
Yes,
Is that Metro property?
it's city property.
Is city property? Who's liable if there's anything happens there?
We will get insurance from Metro, and as far as any incidents in the future, it would be city, it's city property, so I'm assuming it's city liability.
Okay, so we're taking on that burden. Okay, well, at least our commission didn't have anything to do with it.
On a more positive note, I have used these sort of facilities, not exactly this one, but I've used them in Europe and they are fantastic. I've used it in the middle of nowhere. I've used them at metro stations. I know that's not exactly what we're talking about today, but I just want to say that as a user of these facilities who definitely needed it when I was out and about in different places, these sort of automatic toilets are incredible. They make porta potties just seem redundant and you don't even want to use one ever again. So just wanted to add my 2 cents there.
Is it reasonable to ask that if there is a presentation at a city council meeting for a vote by this staff, that it's brought up to the commission? Is that a reasonable request?
I think it could be a little challenging because not all items that she presents are necessarily part of community services. It's only community services, if that makes sense. So she has an item that's coming that's about 4th of July staffing. but it deals more with payroll and paying staff for overtime, which is something that kind of is a payroll thing that would be going to council. So it's kind of a gray area, I guess, when we look at some of our items and I think our timelines. But I think we could do a better job at bringing those items to you guys first.
Can it even something like that? Can it be shared in like the city staff updates?
It could be, but that wouldn't be like an agenda item for discussion. It would just be like an update to you guys.
Right. And so if you didn't feel like it was
If I can just jump,
important enough to be included in the agenda, we would still have a heads up. So if we wanted to attend the city council meeting, we could then provide public comment or feedback.
okay, so two things I'm hearing. One is to make the commission aware of presentations that we are doing to city council to give you a heads up so that you're for your awareness. Correct?
Yes.
Okay, that could be done. Second to that is make sure that you follow the council agendas because anything that's presented there, it's open to the public. So in case, let's say I forget to let the commission know that I have an item to present, I don't want the commission to be upset that, I forgot to let you know, or it could have been a complete oversight. It wasn't like intentional. So make sure you also check the council packets. That way you know what's going on throughout the city. But from this point on, I will make a point to provide an email as an awareness to see if there's projects I'm working on that the commission might be interested in. But as mentioned earlier, there's a lot of things that come to our department that may not necessarily be under community services. It might just be under just city. So.
We're going to say something?
Oh, no.
I did see Ted Gerber had like this really awesome project plan, like Excel spreadsheet, all the projects that Public Works is working on. And I know that this might not be our purview, but maybe in a discussion with my city council person or someone, we can maybe have the city manager kind of ask other departments to maintain something similar, maybe that's kind of included as part of the monthly packet or our meeting packet, see like what else might be on there. So if you forget to mention it to us, or as I do, forget to review the city council agendas, that maybe there's something ongoing that can be included that so we're aware of the other things going on. Maybe.
Can I just suggest that you consult with the city manager and get his guidance on this issue?
Yes, Mayor.
So when is this actually being implemented?
It was scheduled to be installed in July. Right now, I need to go back to council with the site plan to get their approval for the site plan. So
okay.
I'm not really sure, maybe July, August?
So then my next thing was going to be, if we already know this is coming down the pipeline, maybe getting some clarity in how this commission is involved and if there's anything that we can do now that we know that it's happening to either sort of get those markers of use that we want, if that's something that we want to come up with, if that's something that we want to adjust the hours of operation. I think maybe some clarity as far as what this commission's role would be now that we know this is happening.
Noted.
And I just want to add one thing. We are just trying to be accountable as city commissioners because sometimes people know that we're commissioners and we're the first line of attack. Like people have been asking me about the lead in the park. I don't know. So we're just trying to be accountable for the job that we're tasked to do and being involved with this and being aware and knowing what's going on because I can see some people, particularly businesses, if this goes sideways, being negatively impacted this or having very strong opinions. So we just want to be prepared to address those also if we're approached by the public. Thank you.
And do we know why, if it's for the World Cup and the Olympics and it's over a year away, why we're installing it now?
I'll be honest with you, I didn't ask that question as far as what their timeline was. I don't know.
Funding.
If there's any specifics.
It's all about funding. They have the funding now, right? And also people are preparing for the Olympics now. I mean, we're already behind if you're not preparing for the Olympics, which we have not. So we really are trying to make a push, although there's so many things on our priority list to sort of get our city ready for the Olympics. It'd be great if people would come to South Pasadena on the way to the Rose Bowl and to the racetrack and to Pomona. The idea would be that they'd stop in South Pass, and our question, it hasn't been talked about yet, but is how is South Pasadena want to participate? And that may be something for this commission. How do we want to participate in the Olympics? Do we want to be a watch site? Do we want to be there's various things, but it's all starting to happen now. And this is not costing us, I mean, we are not paying for this. We're not paying for the maintenance. And our feeling was, since we can give it back, well, I can tell you my feeling. We can give it back anytime. So if it becomes an eyesore, if it becomes a public nuisance, we just say, take it away, we don't want it. So for free, I think it's a pretty good test, right? And we do have a lot of unhoused people who have gone into the library to use the bathrooms. We did have a bath, yeah. I see the Commissioner Morris shaking her head. So, you know, again, I think that we'll just have to see how this goes. But that's kind of where we are.
If I could say, like, I've seen firsthand people coming into the library because I know a lot of children are in there and teenagers, including me and other middle schoolers, and we will, like, literally get, like, tapped on the shoulder and talked to by people that came off of the metro because they went to go use the restroom in the library. And like a few of me and my friends have had a bad experience where, like, one time I was literally just leaving the bathroom and somebody was like trying to offer me a cupcake. So like I feel like a public bathroom that's not in the library where a lot of children are to study after school might honestly be better for kids' safety. I'm not 100% like really that I know every perspective. That's just one perspective that I can provide as somebody that's part of the youth, because I can just see that firsthand. So that's all I can provide there. But I just wanted to let you guys know what I've been seeing at the library because I'm there like 4 times a week.
Thank you for that feedback. I've seen it too. I think that if the metro actually would install turnstiles at the station to keep paying riders on and or off the train, people would not be freely going into our community, going to the bathroom at the library, doing whatever they're doing. Who, if they don't need to be here or are not paying riders, they should not be allowed to hop on and hop off the train. So by allowing that free flow of ridership, they're creating these additional problems in these communities where these metro stops have been installed, and we are now bearing the brunt of kind of that negative fallout. And so this is kind of just it's solving a problem that the metro is creating. And I think there are other ways to go about addressing the issue. So I know that's not within the purview of this commission either.
And just to remind you though, the Olympics are going to be car-free, quote unquote, carbon-free. So you're not going to be able to allowed to drive your car to any Olympic venue. So I mean,
But they're going to have to pay for the metro.
well, Metro, I don't know all the details, but if you start looking around at what's happening, it's all happening now. The city of LA, I think, is out renting electric buses because they're going to have to bus the athletes, and we don't have enough. So I think they're out trying to borrow them from various cities. But I don't know how it's going to work but supposedly you are not going to be able to drive to Olympic venues if you're a spectator.
I'm not against the service, but I'm against what is causing the need for the service today.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I understand your point.
Can we maybe, I don't know if this is too early for this, but put on the agenda for like October or September to just reevaluate how it, after implementation, a few months out, how do we like it? Just something that gives us a marker and then we can have a discussion with, because I'm looking at these questions that we can't really answer right now without any actual use of it.
Yes, we'll put it in the fall sometime.
I just have one final thing to say. I wouldn't be the person I am if I didn't say that, and someone who works in the sexual assault space, that the rate of the unhoused being attacking people is lower than it is anybody sitting in this room. So I think that's a false narrative that I just want to correct because I have to. And then also, I think Metro is being lobbied to go fare free. So again, that's what I mentioned earlier. The housing crisis is a bigger issue than South Pasadena. Our city does absolutely nothing to even try to prevent our own residents from becoming homeless. But I kind of agree that I get it, it's funding, right? And I would love to see this service for everyone to use. And I just don't want to attack the unhoused as part of this issue. I mean, again, it's such a big issue and it is what it is. And we'll see what happens with the bathroom situation. I hope it works.
Just as like, sorry, I'm so sorry for dragging this on, but I think that was like really cool insight because I sometimes work with food coalitions and stuff like that, but sometimes on the metro it can get a little dangerous because I can say firsthand I've been on the metro and I've been followed home to the point I've had to like try to find people to like walk away from the 5 people following me. So, like, the metro can bring some dangers, but I also think it is a very negative thing to attack an entire demographic of people based upon the actions of a few of them. So, yeah, sorry.
It's definitely becoming more unsafe, the metro.
Yeah, but I don't see what a bathroom has to do with that. I mean, look, we can talk about homeless and all these other issues related to housing crisis and stuff. That's going to be completely outside of the purview of this commission. However, having bathrooms attached to metro stops is not anything unusual, except for in our country where we don't offer basic services at transit locations. You go to any other developed nation in the world, there'll be bathrooms, there'll be facilities, there'll be changing tables, there'll be everything associated because they put transit before vehicle traffic. And the mark of what makes a good city is how people can get to where they need to go without having to get into vehicles. So, um, I understand the concerns regarding the downstream effects of having bathrooms, but I mean, if you really think about it, it makes perfect sense. We're not paying for it, and it's something that's needed. It fills a need, and if it doesn't work out, then we can remove it. I really don't see the major concern about it, considering that these are going to be at every single transit stop along the metro line.
Well, we don't know that.
No,
They're going to be at every
that's the
stop.
plan. The plan
And
is that-
also, in other countries, you have to pay to get on and off the public transportation.
I know.
Okay.
It functions the exact same way as it does here. You can or can't pay. Most of the people do, but our culture and our society doesn't necessarily enforce that the same way, I guess, as other countries do.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Moving on to item 5. Melissa, would you like to present item 5?
Good evening, Commissioners. Tonight, we're inviting discussion and input on our current youth programming offered by the Community Services Department, as well as potential opportunities to expand or enhance services to better meet the needs of our community's youth. Currently, our department provides several programs, including Camp Med, an after-school and summer camp program for ages 5 to 11, Counselor in Training, a volunteer program for youth ages 13 to 17, which is currently being revised, as we had said before, to improve its structure and impact. We also provide seasonal leisure classes and camps organized by age groups, taught youth, and a few teen programs that we've added this summer. These programs are designed to offer educational, recreational, and social benefits. However, we've identified potential gaps, particularly in preteens and teens ages 12 to 14, who may not be fully served by our existing offerings. Tonight, we would like to hear your thoughts on these potential directions and any ideas you may have for expanding youth engagement in South Pasadena. Looking ahead, we will work with Commissioner Moore to gather community feedback over the summer from her peers and youth voices. Staff will then explore the feasibility of any recommended changes or pilot programs and may return with a follow-up report for the further commission input in fall of 2025. We look forward to any feedback or ideas you have for us tonight.
Here, here. I am so happy about this. There are other communities that already have established youth commissions. So we don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel for this, but it's such a wonderful thing to include the youth that are not doing sports or not doing this or that. There's so many, and it's a vehicle for them, for the youth to get involved. It's a leadership thing. It's a volunteer opportunity for us as community service to use the youth. So here, I would like to be involved in the formation of this.
I'm a little confused. It sounds like you're suggesting that there's going to be created a youth commission. That's not what I'm understanding from this item.
Me either.
Yeah.
No, so originally we had a youth commission that was dissolved into the Community Services Commission. So tonight we would not be establishing a youth commission, but we would be looking to get feedback from you all to pass on to Commissioner Moore as our youth commissioner to work with the youth community to provide us some feedback.
I still want a youth commission.
I hear you.
Yeah, sure. This is it. I don't know. I want to be involved in the formation of this. I'm not sure when this is going to be done. Over the summer, you're going to be doing this. I'm not going to be here this summer, but I want to be involved with this. I don't want to throw youth commission out completely. I think it's a need.
We hear you. We don't have the power to create a additional commission or committee at this time, but we have heard you loud and clear about this.
As a youth commissioner on the board, I'm more than happy to try to get as many youth perspectives as I can for everyone. I have some ideas for that, and I'm happy to give that to you guys. I just wanted to make sure, like, you guys know that I'm here fully to try to get as many perspectives from the youth as I can. And I know we won't be able to have a youth commission right now from what we've heard, but I'm happy to give the same effect of youth input more effectively the way that I can. So, if you guys have anything to say before I let you guys know what I've looked at, yeah.
I think that's really exciting, and it's nice to see that you feel like it even sounds like you're excited to get involved in this. I agree that maybe there's some gaps that have been happening, and it's saying that here. And my biggest really question is, I don't really know what even is in privately available in the city. Not to say that that should stop us from creating something. I just want to see like what maybe is not already there that is offered, whether it's after school activities that I don't know about, or actual, maybe there's a nonprofit or other for-profit businesses that a lot of teens do. I don't even know what's out there. So that's what's hard for me to even suggest what could there be. So, but it sounds like you have some ideas, so I'm curious to hear them.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Just before, I mean, when we talk about doing a gap analysis, you're right. What exists out there already that we're not, doubling up on, or if it's already being provided, we should probably let the private sector do that if we think that they're doing a reasonable job, and then kind of fill in the gaps for the things that are missing.
Yeah, and even if it is privately done, it could be more affordable if it's done through the city. So maybe if I can't even think of examples. I don't know, some sort of music-oriented something. Maybe it's just at a higher price because it's done privately, but is there a way, I don't know, just throwing this out there, the city has an opportunity. So yeah, I would like to fill in gaps where maybe there's a need or a desire or an ask as needed, but obviously I'm open to things if they overlap somewhat, just like we have, summer camps and what have you, and there's a lot of different camps and opportunities. So, yeah, I'm just curious to see how we could just facilitate, make it better, and yeah, figure out what our teens and our youth really want.
Yeah. So far, the background that I kind of was given on this was that we want to figure out where the youth stands on what we're offering as a city, as like recreational services that fall under the Community Services Commission specifically. So to just think about general outreach and getting out to the most amount of people that we can and the people that genuinely care that are young people. I honestly feel like giving the youth a voice to speak for themselves is the most important thing here because a lot of parents have the voice already to be able to speak for what they think their children need, but there's not really a stage for youth to speak for themselves because before, I'm going to be so honest with you guys, before I joined this, I didn't even know that there were commissions that you could have public comment on. I had no clue. I'd never read a newsletter or gotten an email, but I was like 12, so. But honestly, what I looked at is that we could possibly do a Google form to try to reach out to a lot of the youth, or we could try to do a physical meeting or a combination of the two. So for, I think, a Google form, it would have higher engagement and it would be a lot easier to share to try to get like a lot of feedback out. And this is talking about more like the form of how we reach out to these people, like these youth peers. And but for a meeting, we would probably have people that have more quality input because they're willing to show up in person. So I touched on this, and I feel like a good combination of this, I would love to hear your guys' feedback on this, by the way, is maybe doing a general Google form first to try to get like what people are more interested in, and then refining that with an in-person meeting. Because then the people that really care can refine it into what matters when we can get a general opinion on what matters to everybody. So I drafted a form and I have a printed out version for everybody. It is definitely not final. There are even spelling errors in there. Very much like a bit of a youth touch, but I can hand that out to you guys right now. I have 10 printed copies.
I think, yeah, go ahead and pass those out. I think that that's a good starting point, though. Starting with a form, trying to figure out how we can distribute that most effectively, and then following up after that with a in-person meeting or a couple, to get once people see that the form has gone out, they were like, oh, this thing's happening. Oh,
Large clarification, this is all very much rough draft. Rough draft, but it's more just to try to, give like an idea of what we could possibly do moving forward over the summer. And I did put that maybe we should do it before the school year ends, but honestly, that's pretty unrealistic, so you guys can ignore that part. But yeah, and then also, sorry for my last thing, is that this is like this is a very like this is like the specificities on what falls under each category, but it has been brought into like not even ideas of having like a what services would benefit you the most, and then having those categories like mental health, sports activities, like general things, and then getting that feedback and then refining that with a physical meeting. So there's like a lot of different things we can do, and I would love to hear all you guys' feedback so that we can try to really refine how we reach out to the youth and really make that data the most accessible it can be for our commission and for the city so that everybody can have their voice heard and everyone can understand the voices that are being, given a stage.
One comment, Commissioner Moore. I think previously there was some digital bulletin board. Does that exist? Okay, if you can check to see if something like that exists. I think that we used to post things on that digital board, which might be if we could refine the survey and then we could get the link posted there. Obviously, we could post the link on the city website and on social media, but I think it would be interesting to see if we could get it distributed through the school district. So just take a look, see if you find something out about that.
I've looked at different ways that we could try to spread it as well. So I'll touch on that really quickly. I think that honestly, the youth is such a powerful force, and I think a lot of voices are untapped because a lot of people don't have the opportunity to like take leadership at such a young age. I'm lucky enough where I got the opportunity to be able to sit here with all of you guys, which are such wonderful people, and be able to hear your guys' input, which I think is like so amazing being educated about this. And I think possibly as like some ideas is maybe we can put it on a PTSA email and encourage parents to share it with their younger children that are in like middle school, and then maybe we can put it on the library bulletin because there's a bulletin physical one in the library, and we can put a QR code because I know a lot of people go to the library. And we can do like a bunch of things to try to get it out to as many people as we can, like putting it on the bulletin that exists. And I think there's one for the school, the high school specifically. And we can talk to as many people as we can to try to get that out. And I feel like all of us as commissioners, if under the jurisdiction to do so, can repost it and ask people to fill it out or ask people to give it to their kids. And I think like that would be really valuable. And even I could have friends that would repost it, try to get it out to as many people as possible, because I think hearing from the youth is such an important thing, even if the youth might find it cringe. Because trust me, I've heard that a lot. I think it's still important to try to give people that want to have a voice in our community, whether or not that be a small group of people or a large group of people. I think it's still important to be able to hear the voices of people that might not be able to have the confidence to speak for themselves yet.
Thank you so much for doing all this work, Commissioner Moore. It's admirable, and it's a really super great start. And I look forward to helping you build on this and collect your data and have some amazing outcomes on this. So I guess my question is for the staff, how do we support Commissioner Moore in moving forward with this from an administrative standpoint?
So I would say we first, we can meet with you to just refine your survey. We have a lot of resources right now to, I think, distribute on our end, obviously with our own city social media, city website. And maybe we can do some more fun and engaging things. I know that we always talk about social media, trying to find a fun video, whatever is trending right now, kind of do something like that to hopefully gauge, grab their attention a little bit and not just post a flyer or something that is telling them to take this survey, which can kind of be boring. And then I think that we have connections with the school district, but if you as well could check and seeing about how we can distribute it through the school district, we're happy to do that as well. I think we could take some time right now to kind of refine it. And we can start it during the summer if we can't start it earlier. And then do maybe a strong push at the beginning of the school year when everyone's refreshed and excited for a new school year. And then bring that information and collect that data and bring it back. And then we can work with you to present it if you want.
Yeah, right now, I'd love to hear you guys' input on types of questions we could ask or formats we could ask these questions, or like more general, specific, what types of things we should add and services like we could offer. So yeah, just let me know.
I think the thing that jumps out to me, and at least when I think many decades ago when I was a youth myself, as to what I was specifically looking for from my local city council and my local government was I think like a sense of how do I get involved, right? Right now we have such great opportunities for our youth to get involved in the community through service, volunteering, you know, the possibility of like organizing park cleanup days or things like that. But there's not really a clear source for all that in a single place. Say, for example, if I'm looking for service opportunities in, the city of South Pasadena, I'd have to know what the opportunity was in order to go and apply for it. Whereas if there was one single source that listed out all the different volunteer opportunities, whether it's at senior center, whether it's at the parks department, or the I think it's the CIT. I think that'd be really useful. And then the other thing that just sort of occurred to me, I think earlier this week, was that the library just finished their renovation of their teen center. But if you weren't actively following the library's Instagram page, you probably wouldn't know that. So in terms of social media, is there a way that we might be able to either create a specific account that would be specifically tailored to the youth? And then through that account, we might be able to do things like market our recreation classes specifically for teens and youth, and also publicize news like the library, teen center getting renovated, and all the cool things that are going to be coming up with that. So I think this is just a really great opportunity to sort of think of all the ways that um, City of South Pasadena already offers these really great programs for the youth, but just making it very easily accessible for them to find it.
Oh, the way I've seen that happen is that this is like also just me completely throwing this out here.
Mhm.
If a lot of people that are young have the same like want for like available community services, which is actually something I like was thinking about too. I just didn't know if that was under our scope of action. So I wanted to put that as like a very brief maybe. Maybe we could make like a website or something that could be put on the SPOSD bulletin, like she said, at the very beginning of a year when a lot of freshmen are looking for service opportunities to fill their hours, get more involved. And I feel like if we give service opportunities from the city, that could help the city, but also help students that are looking for service hours, while also getting service from the youth and getting the youth involved in our city. But that's also something that's like later down the line. But I just think like all of this is such good things to ask. So
I'm in agreement. I kind of see one big header that seems to be coming out from what you were saying, and Commissioner Lai, is service and volunteer opportunities, which is, I know, a part of, I think, the high school experience. You have to do so many hours. So that seems like a big piece to know if, is that where most of the interest is? And I think that's what also is hitting on is or both, or one or more than the other, we don't know yet, is the other thing skill building or college prep? So that's another big piece too, that you kind of have to gauge what are the youth most interested in? Is it all of it, or is it really, it's the volunteer stuff? I want more volunteer, or I want to do more internship prep, or different sort of career building or skill building to prepare for college. So I like the initial piece of this. I think just one practical point. Can I just understand? And again, we have no idea that we're just information gathering, but it sounds like we have staff available to help facilitate something. Is that kind of why this is on our agenda?
Yes, so I think we have Jordan, our program specialist, obviously, that is kind of looking at some of this programming already. So he would serve as a resource for you. And then obviously I do our communication and outreach for the department, so I could serve as a resource as well. So I think we have an opportunity to look at that. And I know Jordan is already looking at some of it, so getting that feedback while he's revamping some of these programs, I think is ideal.
Okay, so even if we start this in summer, we do a big push in the fall, can programming start at the beginning of like a January? Like, do programs, I feel a little embarrassed to know when the programs run, but I'm just curious to know.
So in theory, depending on the program, there's not necessarily like a start date.
Okay.
So for classes, we do seasonal classes.
Yeah, that's what's.
So those would, go with the season. So December, January, February is a winter session, and then so on.
Okay.
But depending on what we're looking at, especially if it's a volunteer-based program, I don't necessarily think that needs like a hard deadline. It's kind of
Okay.
just the advertising of when that program would start.
Okay, so it can be more fluid.
Yeah.
Okay. Those were just my big things. I think volunteer seems like a big piece of what we want to know about, and the desire and ask, and also just anything else that was in here that I thought was really interesting. And I think this is a really great start. I'm really impressed. So awesome. Thank you.
I think our first course of, I'm so sorry. I think our first course of action would more be like information gathering, seeing what people are like the youth are more interested in, generally speaking, and then maybe getting more specificities later on, maybe leading into action later on. But for me, I know for sure that I can help with information gathering. Not quite sure about the other stuff, but I can definitely help with info gathering.
Great.
And I think if you guys have any like things to ask the youth right now to get put on a Google form that gets pushed out this summer or right before the school year or both. I think like anything where you guys are like, we should know more about volunteering, more about sports, more about arts and crafts, more about anything like that, or about like civic engagement, like anything like that. If we want like a category, because I think something that was brought up by Commissioner Samuels, which I thought was really great, was like selecting like maybe like what would you guys care about the most, and then having like a select all that apply. I think that was like genius, like actually smart, because like I kind of didn't think about that, but that was actually like really smart, and I think like I want to hear more of that from you guys, more ways that we can frame it to like, you know, get better and clearer like responses from what the youth care about. And like, I mean, even on like a more general basis, because I do have a lot to learn because I am 16, 17 on Friday, but 16. And I think you guys have such a valuable perspective, and I want to know how you guys think framing it is the best for this conversation today.
First of all, this is incredible that you made this. I would not know the first thing about making a survey, and the questions that you asked are really in-depth and thoughtful. If this is, I guess, the information gathering survey, I do have a couple of things that maybe would be preliminary questions, just simple yes or no questions. For example, did you know that the city offers programs for XYZ? And then someone can say no. And then we know one of our gaps is sending the information out and actually allowing people to gain access. Another question can be, you know, have you ever participated in a city-sponsored activity? If so, what was your favorite one? So that we kind of know what's successful. If you have any recommendations to improve, from actual participants in the past. Another one can be, but you would be the best judge of this since this is your demographic. How would you like to receive updates? Because maybe they say email's fine, or maybe they say Instagram, or how would you like to learn about upcoming stuff? And just kind of gauge who we're talking to and where those gaps might be just from general information. I do like that, like click all that apply, even a rating system. Like what would you be most interested in learning about? Civic engagement, the arts, eco stuff, whatever we offer, which I can learn about that because I'm not sure what we offer. And then I think not to make, this is up to you and you know this demo the best, but I don't want to make more work for you, but I almost wonder if there's two separate surveys, one much simpler for that like 10 to 14-year-old demo, and then I think the 15 to 18 are more able to handle, the questions about mental health and civic engagement. I don't know. But great job.
I kind of disagree. I think you could do the whole, well, 10 and 11 is a little young, but I mean, once they're in, I mean, are we talking about middle school? Middle school to high school, you can kind of, in my opinion, keep them all together in the work that I've done with girls who are in middle school to high school. But that's
It's been a long time since I've been that age, so I don't remember. So I'm open to
when I was doing that work with them, they were together. They would separate out, but they were all
Okay.
really held together. So I think it's possible.
Great.
Just, and I think that Melissa is going to be helping you like refine. So don't worry about that. Like you have some input questions we've put in, but you actually have the staff that'll help you. But the last thing is, the only thing I do see missing is college oriented or trade oriented, something that's post, what are you going to do the rest of your life? Which you might get a lot of that already in school, and maybe that's not what you want here, but it's just a kind of a gap I see right away.
I think maybe like a job fair would be cool, like anything like that. Like that's something that we could do, because I feel like honestly a lot of parents, or like even what would be really, really cool, this is just honestly me like throwing this out there, is like people from the senior center that used to like do different jobs and trades their entire life could share that perspective with the youth, creating like a bridge between the youth and the elderly in our city, being able to share like generational experience, because I know that's a connection that doesn't really exist, but that's honestly just an idea. But I do think maybe I love that idea of having different forms, and I think maybe there could be one that's specifically put on the PTSA for kids under the age of like in elementary school, the parents could help their kids fill out, be like, hey, sweetie, do we want this answer or this answer? Right? And then there could be one for like middle school and above where like we could get more like in-depth answers about mental health. Cause I know honestly, this is shocking me too. I feel old, but like kids that are like way younger in elementary school, like they know a lot about mental health now. Like even like sixth graders will come up to me and talk to me about that, and I'm like, what? I didn't even know anything past the color purple when I was that age. So yeah, I think it's like really cool that even like I get to see the perspective of younger kids because like people are rapidly growing up, and I think being able to hear those voices is super important, and the fact that you guys are also passionate about that is like really great.
Lucy, does your department take internships? Sorry to make you get up.
We don't take internships, but the city has a program for paid interns,
Oh,
which is a 1-year commitment.
okay. And they could hire theoretically from the high schools or
Yeah, they can theoretically, yes.
very good.
I just want to throw it out there. Sometimes kids just want to have a place to hang. And there's a place in Garfield Park, the youth house. Is that still open? I saw there was a line item for it and it was zeroed out, the last budget I saw. Is that still open for
The-
kids who want to come in?
The facility is not open just to the public. It's open for Girl Scouts and Boy Scout meetings, and we also use the facility to host classes. But you can't just have anybody come in just to use it whenever. I think you are mistaking the $0 item based, it was for the teen center programming, which we no longer have in our budget.
Was that part of the youth house?
No, that was done out of the Orange Grove Recreation Building, and then we transferred it over to the senior center.
Great job. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for being proactive. This is an awesome start. I think we've all talked about it for the last several months, that this is something that we want to see happening. So thank you. Um, no one takes time to read or complete many surveys. So I know that when Jordan and Melissa work with you, the survey will be very short and condensed. The ranking, check all that apply, one is a great way to get as much feedback as quickly as possible. And then drilling down into the details once we have an in-person meeting or something like that might be a good kind of second step. But this is awesome. I love the idea of whoever said vocational training, people that might not be going to college and things that are not offered at the high school anymore. Shop, whether it's wood or auto or whatever. I don't even know if we have
I think they
the
offer that
capabilities
through
to
the
do.
high school.
One second. I don't know if we do have the capabilities to do that in the city, but it would be something that we might want to ask people about. What were we gonna say?
I think at the high school, I just got an email for this like 2 days ago. They have like PCC classes on like engineering, hardware, stuff like that, like vocational training over the summer. But like I think honestly more like less of a class, more of like a conference would be cooler to hear from like people of that age. But that's honestly something that's like more like a later thing. But I do think vocational, like anything, is amazing to like give people that opportunity. I just wanted to let you know like what was here.
The other thing I was going to mention was getting things out into the newsletters of the schools is sometimes a challenge, but I think I mentioned this before. I have connections at the district that probably other people do too. But as long as you put a little caveat that says like not sponsored by South Pasadena Unified School District, they're usually pretty good about it, especially if we're offering services to the community. And throw it in there. I love the QR code, maybe different surveys for elementary versus non-elementary, and having, get that message out there. And especially like Commissioner Lai said, we have this survey, but next summer or next fall, it's like, hey, did you know the city has blah, blah, blah? Click here for all of the details. And you can put that on there or in that newsletter on a consistent basis, or that might get stale, but you know what I mean? Put it in there, somewhat frequently, that with a QR code, link to the page, link to the whatever, so that the kids know, that the parents know that, like, hey, kid, go check this link. They have all these community services hours. And I don't know if you do that already, but it could be definitely useful.
I was wondering what you guys thought of like this kind of just idea for like moving forward with the two different separate Google Forms, maybe for the younger oriented one. It could be more focused on like arts and crafts and more like recreational things, but I've noticed like even kids that come up to me in the library because I just kind of am there all the time, so people just talk to me that are in like 7th grade, they're already worried about college. They're already stressing about their middle school GPA, and I'm like, again, didn't know what the color purple was back then, which was like 5 years ago.
I think that's something that um,
Yeah.
was mentioned. What's already being provided in the
Yeah.
community, arts and crafts, music classes, soccer, baseball, what are the things that we might want to augment all those other service offerings with, to kind of hit on, um, and teach them about the color purple and stuff like that.
Just generally, do you guys think it would be like valuable moving forward to try to separate recreational versus academic, vocational, job training, career fair, college, academic oriented things? Because I feel like maybe like if we did something where it was like the first few questions, as in like 2 or 3, because we want to keep this brief, is about like the demographic they come from, as in like, are you a South Pasadena resident? Have you heard about stuff like this before? Did you know this exists? Would be like the first 3 questions. When like after that we can have like a rank the following or like check all that apply. We'll have different ones. So it could be like for recreational things and then for more like future training and more serious things like mental health, civic engagement could be like the second one. And that could be definitely like the middle school, high school survey.
I think that sorry. I was going to say, I think that that's maybe a question for the survey, because I don't want to assume that older kids just want to participate. They might be interested in an after-school sports league because they hear about college all the time at school. I think maybe this is something we ask in the survey for all the ages, for that age. We don't have to, decline the opportunity for them to not participate in a survey about arts or sports or recreation. I think this is something we might learn as we do the survey.
Yeah, I agree with you on that recreation and community services / resources are two different things. I think that there's too many youth in that age category that have absolutely nothing to do. I don't know. My daughter wasn't a high achiever. I didn't put that pressure on her. But there wasn't anything else for her to do, and we didn't have the resources to enroll her in private classes like other people in the community. Like she couldn't do youth and government at the Y, and just other things, dance classes, all that stuff. Where there's plenty of private providers. Every time I turn around, empty retail is being filled by another private provider of some sort of youth creative thing. So to have meaningful and relevant and interesting activities available at a city level, which is affordable compared to the private offerings, I think is what the gap is going to fill, because not every child in South Pass Unified is interested in going to college. I think there's too much emphasis in that culturally in South Pasadena, and I think that hurts a lot of our children and mental health, and they check out. And that's what we want to avoid. We want to keep our youth engaged. We want to keep them healthy physically and mentally. And whatever we can do as a city to provide opportunities for parents as well as the youth, I think is very important. But the survey is a good start. I would just like it to be very inclusive and consider, every child in South Pasadena.
Honestly, like a lot of people I know, even like kids in my math class, I've heard they're like, oh, I don't have to try in school. I'm just going to go to PCC and redo everything. because they think it's just because they're not going to go to college means, or just because they can't afford college, but they're not so not affording college they can't get any financial aid. A lot of kids are so stressed about that that they just give up all academics completely, and they just feel like it's useless to even try anymore, which like yeah, that's like something where I honestly feel like resources are valuable to kind of like get input from people, like especially in the youth that are in those situations, to kind of know what we can offer to try to encourage people to like have the resources that they could have to become like the best version of themselves that they could be for everybody.
Also, a question would be, are you a kid or are you an adult? Like, because people are going to get a hold of this that are not students. But a quick time check. It's 8 o'clock. Maybe quickly, next steps.
We'll connect
Matt?
offline to refine the survey, and I do have the blurb for the school district, so we're good there. I have that. So we'll get the ball rolling, but I can connect with her offline.
Cool. Great. Thanks, Mac. Thanks, Commissioner Moore. Sorry. Um, all right. Any other comments on that? All right. Moving on. Excited about that. Moving on to item 6. Melissa Snyder, you are up again to present the next item.
Good evening. This evening, we're asking for your input to help shape an upcoming presentation by the San Pasqual Stables operator scheduled for tentatively September 8th. To help guide this discussion, similar to what we did with the golf course, staff suggests considering some of the following areas, but open to any additional feedback. So we're looking at financial sustainability and operations, maintenance and any upcoming improvement plans, community access and engagement, the operator's long-term goals and anticipated challenges, or any public concerns or feedback received. We welcome your thoughts on these and any additional questions you believe should be addressed. And feel free to submit these in email like we did previously to me, hopefully by May 30th or so. So staff can share them with the operator in preparation for September. So thank you, and we look forward to any ideas or suggestions you have.
Just the action to submit questions, yes?
You guys can have questions submitted now, or you can do them via email to me. Happy to take them via email.
I'm going to submit it by email, but my questions are going to be primarily with respect to some of the services that the operators agreed to as a part of the lease agreement in connection to community outreach, youth services, engagement with the YMCA, school district, things like that, and whether they're fulfilling their obligations under that specific portion of the lease agreement. But I'll put all of those thoughts in writing.
And we do have some of your feedback, obviously, from the previous meeting that we reviewed the lease agreement. So we are aware of a lot of those, but please do submit them via email.
And also there's proof of people living in that house and they're not paying rent. Or there's no rent being recorded in the financials. So
Yes.
are they getting services and exchange and kind of what's the situation there? Not that we need to answer that now, but that's something that I noticed.
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Samuels on that. I want to make sure that there's fair labor practices going on with that.
Okay.
If they've made an exchange for we're going to work you to death, but you get to live here for free, I think that's something we should be aware of.
And I'm curious about the capital funds that's supposed to go in for that particular house is going into the general fund. Is that still continuing, or is it going to a capital fund for the use of the house?
They probably won't be able to answer that question, but that is a good question.
We will look into it. And maybe she has an answer.
I hope they can't answer that question.
The rental fee and the funds for the capital improvements goes into the general fund.
But it shouldn't.
Is there a separate fund within the general fund that it's deposited?
There's two separate line items, one for the rental and one for the CIF, which is the capital improvement fund, all within the general fund.
Okay.
But also the financials that have been reported show zero rent income. So
For
even,
the house?
right,
In the agreement, there is no rent for the person that is living there who is employed by the stable. So he is the caretaker.
that's in the lease agreement?
Yes.
Then
I-
how can they rent it?
We call it rent, but there's no money exchange. So the person lives there, but they are an employee of the stable's operator and they work there. They're there 24 hours a day, making sure that the stable's facility is safe at night.
I'm curious about a market analysis of how are the rates derived? And are they comparable to other stables?
As far as what the city's revenue is, the 6%.
Right, what they charge, which becomes our revenue as well.
Well, right now, we have an agreement with the current operator. What was decided back in 2018, 19, between council and the operator is something that had happened. I don't know if it's comparable with other stables. That's something that would come up once the lease with this current operator is up, which will be in 2029.
So who does that?
That would be between the operator and city council in a closed session.
Ah,
But I would imagine whoever is doing that negotiating will have that information and be prepared to know what, market rate would be for, I thought you were talking about the market rate for the rent on the house.
I'm talking about.
Because
what
market
people
rate
charge.
for the rent on a 4-bedroom house in South Pasadena is $6,000 a month. That's a lot of money. Questions forthcoming.
Perfect. I love it. Thank you.
I think that's it. I think we'll move on to the next item on the list, which I also asked to be included in the agenda, is kind of like a follow-up item where we can kind of summarize what we might be looking to do, and then maybe follow up in future meetings.
Maybe we could just provide an introduction. Chair Samuels requested this item to be added on kind of as a recap for our meeting. So it's helping us track and maintain actionable items that we were bringing back to the commission just to hold ourselves accountable. So some of the items that we had pending was obviously our financial budget presentation once that budget process has happened and there's our final allocations. We also had a request for budget actuals, so we're planning on bringing that back as well. There will be the presentation for the Arroyo Seco Golf Course operator as well as the stables. And those are some pending anticipated dates when we're planning on having these items on the agenda.
The golf course is next month? Is that right?
June
In
9th.
June? Yeah, great.
If we are going to have this list, the one that I'm curious about is do we have an anticipated date for when we're going to have the feedback on the parks master plan?
I want to say fall, but I don't want to be
I
wrong.
know that's a really big one. I just like when we might anticipate it.
We're waiting for the library project survey to conclude, which is coming up on June 1st. And as soon as that is concluded, we will send out the survey for the Parks Master Plan, gather the information, and the final draft would come to council in early next year, January,
Okay.
February.
So it's a while. Oh, it's a ways away.
Correct.
Okay. I think I must have missed that there's another survey going out because there was already a prior survey. So there's a 2-survey process?
There was one online, but
Yeah.
now we're going to be doing 2 different ones. One that will be available online, but it's more in depth. It asks all the questions such as, have you visited our parks? Have you taken a class? Have you, what do you like? If you had $100, what would you change about our parks? What kind of additions do you want? So it's a little more in-depth. It's about 20 questions or so. So that's going to be out pretty soon, so have a look out for it.
Okay. I don't know, I'm just kind of like, I guess, is that not on here just because we don't have any sort of update? That just seems like such a huge one that I think we should keep in our minds that it's coming, that.
I think
It's
that was
done.
part of the work plan, if I'm not mistaken, the Parks Master Plan.
So does it live over there? Because I'm just trying to figure out.
We
what
can
this
make it
is.
live over here too. That way we
Okay.
have one list.
Yeah, because then we're missing things over here. I just kind of, if we're going to do this, I want to kind of put things in there. Same thing would be the library ad hoc that I'm on, which we haven't met in a while. So I got to be honest, I don't really know what the next step is. We're just closing down the survey. I know that, but we meet on June 9th. So even that one, we're supposed to have a joint meeting, and I know it got rescheduled. And so I had Commissioner Bagasau asking me about it, and I don't know the date.
September 8th.
September 8th. So even that might be a good one to include as well, just so that we know what's kind of coming up. So those were my two that I thought were missing here. Thank you.
And I also went to the skate park this week, and there's a giant hole in the ramp, and also many holes starting to form in other parts of the equipment. So a couple of months ago, I believe there was a gentleman who came and presented, and there was some follow-up by the staff that said you were going to retain a vendor. And can you update us on what's happening with the vendor?
And I'm just going to tell you that that's fairly recent. We were just talking about it right before this meeting, but I'll let them tell you what the story is.
We went ahead and purchased the piece that needs to be replaced. We are having a difficult time finding a vendor to come out to replace that piece. At the same time, we have also reached out to a new company to give us a plan to replace the skate park. And that is a high price tag, of course. So it's still in the works. We haven't been able to do what needs to be done. It's on our radar. And I actually just had a meeting with our Public Works Department today. So we're trying to figure out what we need to do, what our next steps are going to be.
I would put that on your list of follow-up items.
It is. That's why I'm
Yeah,
asking
okay.
about it.
Yeah.
So, you said to replace the skate park. Is that what you said?
We have a plan for a replacement estimate for, yes.
To replace the skate park?
To
Or replace
to
the piece?
essentially replace the pieces. It's
The
a
pieces.
maintenance replacement plan to replace the existing pieces with a better, newer equipment.
So I'm just going to tell you that literally I emailed the city manager today. I think the question is the viability of the current skate park, because we're having trouble finding vendors who will replace, who can do the work to this what you called an above ground park.
It's an above ground as opposed to below ground cement, which is like kind of the way that most cities install skate parks these days or have for the last couple of.
Right. So in my mind, this is a viability question.
Right.
Because you don't have vendors who can service this, that's a problem. So then the question becomes, what do we do? And I think that our staff has found a quote for how to fix this for concrete. That's $300,000. So I think it's not clear what, that is something that will come back to this commission, I believe. But that I think it's become a bigger issue. Like now we can try to fix that one particular place, but it's now becoming a bigger issue.
Right.
And I think we've gotten risk management involved as well.
Right. Risk management, because that piece being missing and the park being open is a major liability, and there's no one will come to replace that part. Should I reach out to someone?
Have you reached out to the community
So
of skaters that are represented?
we understand that there's obviously a liability question. So we're having a liability question with using a vendor who was not the one who installed the equipment. And obviously a liability question with having people who are not able to install the equipment doing it. So we had reached back out to the original vendor who is now having a difficult time arranging the remaining employees that they have that know how to replace that equipment. So there is a company that does above ground skate parks still, but they are not interested in doing the work as they are not the ones who initially installed the equipment. So we went back to our original vendor who is now trying to get the staff to come out and do the work. So getting a concrete timeline for them has been a little difficult.
And are we going to keep the park open with that?
So yes,
Piece missing?
that's been discussed about having to either remove the equipment or look at closing the park.
So it's just the half pipe?
The half pipe right now is the one that has the hole in it. There are a couple other, we've done a walkthrough with both vendors, Spawn Ranch and the new one, for areas that needed to, other pieces that needed to be replaced. So Spawn Ranch is working on getting us a quote to just do the half pipe and get someone out to just do the half pipe, but also provide additional for those other areas that look like they could be in need of repair.
I'm just going to make a suggestion here. Whenever we do anything in the city that impacts a certain demographic, we ask for their input. Have you gone to the people that use the skate park and discussed this situation with them and say, this is the situation. These are our two options. And just to get their feedback? I mean, none of us here use that skate park. What do we know about it?
So I think if we were to move forward with looking at replacement or change or anything like that, that would obviously be something that we would bring to the community. But as of right now, we're just looking to get that piece replaced. So I don't think that's why we haven't reached out for community input, because there's not looking to do change to the park.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about the overall community. I'm talking about the people that use that skate park every day who have come forward and asked for this to happen. I mean, it just seems to me like I get contacted by consultants all the time for my input on housing things. I don't know why that would be so unreasonable for you guys to go to Patrick Cruz or to the skate shop and say, hey, this is the situation. What do you guys think?
What kind of feedback would you be looking for? Because you can't just have Commissioner Plotkin go and replace the wood because.
Yeah, no, I understand. I think just as a community relations exercise, so that they are feeling included and they are the people who use it and these changes are making done. I'm sure they will appreciate to have it repaired, but I just think from a community relations standpoint, it would go a long way for the city to include that community in these discussions.
And maybe they have contacts for vendors, possibly.
And again, if we had a vendor who was contracted, who knew how to do that work, why wasn't he doing it when it was reported that they were doing maintenance checks every month?
Right. So when we have vendors making sure that they kind of are following up on their end of their agreement, I guess.
What it sounds like is that this is going to be more of a Band-Aid, and then hopefully down the line, it sounds like with the viability issue, this is all probably going to be replaced. So, but I understand that there is a liability factor in going to the public and asking them, hey, do you know a vendor who could do this? It has to be city approved. Like you said, there's a liability factor if it's not the one who actually did the original work. So I do think, I love the idea of getting the community involved, but I understand there's other complications that happen because we've witnessed that it's a very impassioned community who will want to get involved. And I think if we ask for their input and then don't use it because of legality, that could potentially maybe backfire in some way. But I agree in getting the community involved when it's a step that invites community involvement. Right now, I think you just have to get the piece done.
I think if we're really going to be looking long-term to like replace the skate park as a whole, I mean, that's certainly an opportunity. Same thing with the golf course, right? Since we're doing such a grand overhaul of it, then that's a really good opportunity to solicit, stakeholder feedback as to what they would like to see out of the redesign. But at least for the purposes of getting a ramp fixed, I think nobody's going to argue that the ramp should be fixed, right? I don't think a single skater there is going to say, no, don't fix the ramp, just leave the hole there. So, as we started sort of thinking long term and start assessing these costs and trying to determine whether it makes sense from a financial standpoint to do this significant overhaul and upgrades to the skate park, whether there's going to be a desire for that, and if so, what specific things are the people that use that park trying to get out of that particular facility. So
I was at that dog park a few times last week using the dog park. And there were no parking spaces for people who had dogs because they were all filled up by skateboard people. So people are still coming, even though it's a dangerous thing. But I saw at least 5 or 6 cars get ticketed because there were no spaces and they just take whatever space they can get there.
I wish I had a solution to that, but I don't, unfortunately.
I was gonna say,
You build them, they come. It's a good problem to have, but at the flip side of it, yes, parking is limited down there at the skate park, at the dog park area.
I say the parking around the Arroyo Seco is going to be its own topic, I think, at some point. But yeah.
Got it. So we're going to add Parks Comprehensive Plan, the library site plan, information, and skate park to this item so that we can provide you guys an update.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I think we're ready for Mayor Braun to provide us with some city council communications.
Oh, boy. So I just want to say thanks for all you're doing here. And we are not going to have the Commissioner Congress this year. So we are looking for a way to kind of bring commissions to City Council to report on what they're doing and what they need. And then also a way to appropriately thank all of our commissioners. So that's just to come. I just want to let you know that. But thank you. There's a lot happening. And just so you know, the budget, the projected adoption of our budget for 25-26 is August 20th. We're hoping that the 23-24 audit goes to the auditors in the next week or so. So that audit won't really be done probably until August. So August, we'll have just a better idea of where we stand financially. But, when we get things like a $300,000 price tag, when we're probably not going to have a balanced budget, it's just, we're going to have a lot of priorities to set as a community. But anyway, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner communications? We want to start down at the end and kind of make our way this way. Commissioner Moore, anything to add?
Nothing that I didn't say earlier.
Okay. Commissioner Lai?
I'm just gonna say, as we get towards summer and some of the summer recreation activities that, recognize the work that goes into putting on those events. And we as a commission are very thankful for the services and the work of our staff in organizing really wonderful concerts and movies at the park that we can all come together as a community and sort of share a common sort of experience together. So we're looking forward to the lineup of both the music and the movies. I've submitted my recommendations. You're not obligated to follow them whatsoever, but we're looking forward to the schedule release and for all the upcoming events this summer.
When is that schedule being released?
It should be very soon. I just have to check with Natalie regarding movies. So we have our concert lineup. We have Shakespeare in the Park, and we finalized most of our details for 4th of July. So that information should be coming out very soon.
Cool.
I just have two different things I wanted to comment on. First, I wanted to thank Lucy for taking her time out a few weeks ago to go with me down to the Arroyo. I did get a site visit that I had asked for, and it was very enlightening. One of my things I was quite concerned about, you might recall, is the house that we've been talking about. I obviously did not get an inside tour, but I did get an outside view of the house and the stables. Particularly, we spent more time there, and they looked like they were being well maintained and in really good condition. And I'm kind of a stickler for seeing, is that, that eave off, or is that, whatever, the water, I can't think of the names right now. I'm a little tired. Things that I would look for on my house, and painting and screens and everything actually looked really good. So that actually gave me a lot of confidence that we were taking care of that historic building and the stables itself. When I went, the property looks really great. Really, there's lots of flowers. It's springtime. There was a lot of activity, which I was surprised during the week. There are a lot of people who are riding in that first paddock area, and there are a lot of horses there. And just, I didn't go into the, for safety reasons, into exactly where they were being housed, but I got to walk through. And again, the site itself looks like it's in really good condition. So I was pleased to see that. I didn't see a lot of, but I could see big maintenance things that are eyesores. I'm sure there are things that are broken that need to be fixed. So I just wanted to report that back, that it was, and then I did see the skate park. So I got to see this pole that we're all talking about. I got to see how there are other items that are bought there by people in the city that should not be there, but I was told that they bring them, we remove them, and then they bring them back. So that was very interesting. God bless you. And just to see the different gazebos we have. So it was a really great tour and understanding. One of the things that I thought was interesting that was brought up was connected to charging for, you know, if someone was renting the summer. I know we had talked about that. What I thought was interesting is there are other ones that are there. So I thought that was interesting that we have to think about, you'd have to grandfather in the ones that are already holding site. And then if new people come in and they want to put in a, something for the summer to hold all their activities and things. So anyway, it was just very insightful for me to actually see things in person. I highly recommend, if you don't have the time, that hopefully you can go do that yourself. So that was a whole update I wanted to share. So the second question or comment I have is that I'm curious to know where the other staff members are from the city, Natalie, Jordan, and I'm forgetting other people's names. I really liked their presentation, their involvement, that they see what we do, how we engage, how you engage with us. So I'm just curious to know what happened to them and why they're no longer coming. So that was just a comment that I would maybe like to ask for later. Yeah. And that's it. That's it. That's for me.
Just very quickly, I just want to appreciate the commission and how much I learned from all of you. And I think we are really good at reaching consensus most of the time. And just hearing everyone's opinion, I hope that this is helpful to the staff and to the council and to our community. I guess regarding what we're talking about is parking in the Arroyo, that's stacking up. My daughter and I were there. I think it was either the day before Easter or Easter Sunday, and the trail was really packed, and there were cars parked beyond the parking lot into the trail. And so, of course, because I'm a Karen that way, I wanted to call parking enforcement, but I didn't know if that was our parking enforcement or Pasadena. And there is a sign posted that says no vehicles beyond this point, but there were at least 4 cars parked beyond that point.
Which trail?
Going onto the trail down in the lower Arroyo from the stables parking lot.
Oh, from this, okay, that's Pasadena.
Okay.
So the stables parking lot is city property, and it's for the stables, but a lot of people park there, and it's hard for us to monitor that because people park there and go on the trail.
Yeah, so
But
this
that
was
is the
beyond,
city of
yeah, this
Pasadena.
was beyond the gates. Others, they were actually into the trail.
Yeah.
Where they parked. Okay. And then I had something else, another question about that. Oh, and then so this is a question because I walk in Garfield Park a lot. I was there last weekend, I think, and I know that when Ellen Zeimer was mayor, she was very concerned about people tying things to the trees in the park. And there was a family picnicking that had their hammocks tied between the trees. And then the kids were swinging on them. And I didn't know, like, we have nothing. I thought, well, maybe, and they also had an open flame, but there's nothing posted. I feel like there used to be signs about the rules in the park, like no skateboarding or bicycles on the paths there, and I couldn't find any.
There are park rule signs, one off of Gravellia, one off
Okay.
of Mission.
But there's none actually inside of the park.
Not
If you
inside the
enter
park.
from park
Mhm.
by the restrooms, you're not going to see those.
You won't be able to see it,
Okay.
correct?
So I don't know, maybe something when we have the money we should consider. And then the off the leash little tiny teeny sign on the folding thing,
Mhm.
I think somebody took it off. That awful struggle we have with the dogs. And I just read today that Pasadena is starting to enforce their off the leash dog
That
ordinance.
is correct.
And I think-
$500.
Yes, and I just want to say, because I did attend a council meeting where there's some folks here very stymied about that felt like they should have an exception. I 100% support the enforcement of that ordinance.
And we added the smaller A-frame signs for the dog owners. There are the rule signs on the parks, but not everyone sees it, not everybody reads it. So we're trying to be a little more visible out there to warn them to have their dogs on a leash.
Great, thank you guys. You're doing a great job as always.
Dogs are back at Orange Grove. Want to let you know now that,
Surprise, surprise.
right, now that no one has been around for a while, they're kind of creeping back in. But just a heads up.
Okay, thank you.
But I
If
know
you
that-
happen to be around, you're more than welcome to call the non-emergency phone number to our police department
Okay,
or the Humane Society.
okay.
Just a
And
suggestion.
okay, I might do that. And I know I got emotional earlier about the bathroom, but I do appreciate all the things that city staff is doing and what you're doing, and so I love you guys. I love this commission. I love the commissioners, and I do appreciate all the stuff that we're doing together. So, you know, I express myself because I care, not, and if I didn't, I wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be sharing those feelings. So, in the end, I appreciate everything that you guys do.
Thank you.
My turn. Okay. I don't want to give up this youth commission. There has to be, the kids have to have some kind of organization. And it has to be, and I believe it has to be run by the kids, and I think we need to set it up. If youth commission you don't want to use that term, use whatever it is, but there has to be something run by kids so we can listen to the kids and provide what they need. So that's my thing. I'm not going to give up on that. I firmly believe in that. The other thing, in another vein, we usually don't do full summer meetings. I'm going to be a disembodied voice in the summer because I'll be in Boston. Do we? And I see what
we do meet in the summer. I think last year you were in Boston. We did have a Zoom meeting with you. We're
Right.
planning to have meetings in the summer unless commission wants to have a month off. That's obviously up for you to decide. And if that is the case, we can agendize it. But as of right now, we have it on the schedule to have it June 9th, July 8th, and I don't remember the August date,
Right. I think
11th, and then September 8th.
Yeah,
That's as far as I can go.
last summer we didn't do an August meeting. I was a disembodied voice in July, but
I believe we canceled the August meeting and we had a meeting at the golf course. That was the reason of that cancellation. Now I remember.
I second what everybody says to say thank you. And I second what Commissioner Lai mentioned about the summer concert series. I'm looking forward to that. I have a question about the senior center. And it came to my attention from somebody who explained the situation to me that they encountered a bit of unwelcomeness from another member of the senior center. So I guess I was wondering, because we are dealing with seniors and it's, sometimes sensitive, we don't know what people have gone through in their lives. What does the staff do, or what is being done to maintain a culture of inclusivity in the senior center? And what are some recourses that people can take?
So we have a code of conduct that should be followed while at the senior center. So in the event that someone does not follow the code of conduct and it was not observed by staff, we would ask that they bring that to the attention of staff. So sometimes people say things during bridge at a table, and so you may not hear it. So if they are comfortable, they can bring it to the front desk staff, or they can ask to meet with Katrina to discuss it, and then she would set up a meeting with the other individual involved. And we usually have that conversation, obviously, in private, where we discuss what occurred. I've never had an issue after that where people were not respectful or courteous to each other afterwards. So if you want to share that information with me offline, I'm happy to hear it and then pass that along to Katrina.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Well, thank you. No further items or comments from anyone or the commissioners. I'll adjourn the meeting until our next meeting on June 9th, 2025 at 6:30. Thank you all very much. Have a good night.
Right.